Have you ever wondered how people captured incredibly realistic scenes before cameras, smartphones, or even photography existed? Imagine walking into a completely dark room and seeing the outside world projected upside down onto the wall, almost like magic. It sounds impossible, but this fascinating optical trick has been known for thousands of years. It's called the camera obscura, and without it, modern photography might never have happened. Today, we're exploring how the camera obscura works, why it creates such a strange upside-down image, and how this surprisingly simple invention helped shape art, science, and eventually the cameras we use every day. Let's step into the dark and uncover the story behind one of history's most remarkable optical discoveries. Right here, on History of Simple Things. The idea behind the camera obscura is far older than most people realize. Observations of pinhole image projection were recorded in ancient China by the philosopher Mozi around the 5th century BCE, while the Greek philosopher Aristotle later described sunlight passing through small openings during partial solar eclipses, producing tiny images of the sun on the ground. The biggest leap came during the medieval period when the Arab polymath Ibn al-Haytham, often called the father of modern optics, carefully studied how light travels. Around the 11th century, he demonstrated that light moves in straight lines and explained why a small hole could project an image. His experiments transformed the camera obscura from an interesting curiosity into a scientific tool. By the Renaissance, artists began using larger camera obscuras to help sketch landscapes and buildings with remarkable accuracy. Although historians still debate exactly which famous painters relied on them, there's little doubt that the device influenced artistic techniques long before photography was invented in the 19th century. The name camera obscura simply means dark chamber in Latin. At its simplest, it's exactly what the name describes: a completely dark box or room with one tiny hole on one side. When light from the outside world passes through that small opening, it projects an image of the scene onto the opposite wall. There are no electronics, no sensors, no batteries, and no lenses required for the basic version. Just darkness, a tiny opening, and light. What's truly amazing is that the projected image isn't just a blurry patch of color. If the hole is small enough, it forms a surprisingly recognizable picture complete with colors, shapes, and movement. The upside-down image often surprises people, but it's actually a simple consequence of how light travels. Light rays move in straight lines. Imagine the top of a tree outside the camera obscura. The light coming from its highest branches travels downward through the tiny opening before reaching the lower part of the back wall. At the same time, light coming from the bottom of the tree travels upward through the same opening and lands near the top of the wall. The same crossing happens from left to right, which means the entire image becomes inverted. Nothing inside the camera flips the picture. It's simply the geometry of light passing through a very small opening. Interestingly, your own eyes produce upside-down images on your retinas too. Your brain automatically processes those signals so you perceive the world right side up without ever noticing. You might think making the hole larger would create a brighter image, and it does, but there's a trade-off. A tiny opening allows only one narrow bundle of light rays from each point of the scene to pass through. Because those rays stay separated, the projected image remains relatively sharp. If the opening becomes too large, many different rays from the same object overlap on the projection surface. Instead of crisp edges, everything begins to blur together. Finding the right size is a balancing act. Smaller holes produce sharper but dimmer images, while larger holes create brighter but blurrier projections. This is one of the reasons later camera designs began using lenses instead of simple pinholes. A lens can gather much more light while still focusing it into a sharp image. Although today's cameras look nothing like a camera obscura, they still rely on exactly the same basic principle, controlling light. Instead of projecting onto a wall, modern cameras use lenses to focus light onto photographic film or digital image sensors. Adjustable apertures control how much light enters, while shutters determine how long that light is allowed inside. In many ways, your smartphone camera is a highly advanced descendant of the camera obscura. Engineers have added autofocus, image stabilization, electronic sensors, and powerful software, but the fundamental idea remains unchanged. Every photograph still begins with light entering a controlled space to create an image. Even in today's digital world, camera obscuras continue to amaze visitors. Permanent camera obscura attractions exist in several cities around the world, where mirrors and lenses project live images of streets, coastlines, or skylines onto viewing tables inside dark rooms. Many schools also build simple pinhole cameras because they provide one of the clearest demonstrations of how light behaves. Seeing a moving, full-color image appear without electricity feels almost magical, even though it's entirely based on physics. The camera obscura reminds us that some of the greatest scientific discoveries don't require complicated technology. Sometimes all it takes is darkness, a tiny hole, and curiosity. The camera obscura may seem like a simple box with a hole, but it changed the way humans understood light, vision, and eventually photography itself. From ancient observations to medieval scientific breakthroughs and Renaissance art, it laid the foundation for every camera that followed. The next time you snap a photo with your phone, remember that you're using principles discovered centuries ago through one remarkably simple invention. Sometimes the most revolutionary ideas aren't the most complicated. They're simply the ones that help us see the world in a completely new way. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.